Welcome back to Reap Your Roots, where we look backward to better move forward. Today, I'm sitting here with my homie, my brother, Austin Shook, who is a sound therapist. Austin, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Sharing the mic today because we only have one, but doesn't matter if you're listening to this, you wouldn't even know that. Today, with the Reap Your Roots, looking back to better move forward, we're going to be talking about looking back at an ancient practice that is now coming into the world in a very, I'd say, even like a revolutionary way, coming back into the mainstream. And some people have experienced it, some people haven't. What we're talking about today is sound therapy, which is what Austin does. This is life work as a sound therapist. I guess just for people that have no idea what it is, we won't spend too much time on this because most people know, I think, by now. But in layman terms, what is sound therapy?
There's you can ask just about any sound therapist what their definition is, and you'd probably get a different definition. But to me, and through my understanding and relationship with it, sound therapy is an opportunity for you to let go of the things that you are not so that you can tune in to the center of who you are. And it also gives an opportunity for the things that we may be holding on to whether we know them or not, to kind of come to the surface so that they can be witnessed, released, or just be made aware of so that we can work with them in the ways that we need to. Yeah, one of my favorite things about sound healing is that it creates an opportunity for people to lean into their own healing. And that's one of my favorite things about being a sound therapist, is giving that opportunity to people, because as a sound therapist myself, it's not up to me to do the healing. It's simply up to me to help to curate and create a space where people can choose that for themselves.
Yeah. You mentioned it creates the opportunity for things to come up, things to be felt, things to be released. And we won't go super. I've done one podcast before where I talked to a sound therapist and we went really into the science. And I think that's just because that's how my brain works. Yeah. Is I like to see, obviously Western minded. You're thinking about, like, can it be observed? Can it be measured? And how the science is now caught up to this ancient modality of sound therapy that is like, oh, now we see that we're actually not stagnant beings, that everything's vibrating, that sound and even words can affect not only like your cells and you, but also like plants and other things and water and all these crazy science backed studies and evidence that shows that sound really does, for good or bad, affect us on a very deep level. Mm-hmm. And we don't realize that a lot of times, especially in the world that we live in now. We're not, for years and years and years and years, people were surrounded by stillness and calm and nature sounds and birds and creeks and the wind through the trees. And now we're in such a, I don't know what I'd call it, artificial like world. So there's a lot of there's not very many opportunities to get actually clean, clear sound that does this, what you're saying of, I loved how you described that, of it's just an opportunity, it allows things to come up and to be released. And when you say that, are you meaning mostly like emotions or memories, or how have you seen that in the sessions that you've done with people? How do things surface when you're playing your different instruments? And then what is, in your experience, being, let go of or released or even harmonized?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that when it comes to, what's coming up in the body or in the mind, I think a lot of times it really opens up into negative thought forms, negative emotional patterns, sometimes traumas that have come up in the past, or we have experienced in our past. And sometimes it's just a completely blissful ride too. It doesn't have to bring anything up. It can just kind of send you into a deeply relaxed space, which can be extremely healing as well, because it's far and in between where we really take the time to relax that deeply. So it at least gives the opportunity for someone to experience that. And it's really funny when we're talking about like the science and things of sound healing, because I like to relate it to walking into a forest and picking up a handful of leaves and trying to explain the whole forest quickly through what's in your hand. But it's so vast and it's such a fundamental of reality that it's almost impossible to describe everything about sound healing, or to even spend the time that you need to with sound to understand it that deeply, because you'd have to live in the forest, you'd have to live with sound every day, every moment, in order to really tap into the nuances of sound and how it works and what it does. But
Yeah. That reminds me of like what's helped me understand it even better than the science of it. Once the science gives me like that logical, like, okay, I'll pay attention to this.
Yeah.
And then I dive into it and I start to study it from the other aspects of like the experiential, right? Mm-hmm. Experiencing sound baths, but then also the spiritual of studies.
Yeah.
And when you said like it's such a fundamental aspect of our reality, I thought of in the beginning was the Word, and God was the Word. And so word or sound in Christian belief systems and in the Bible, that's like the first thing that created creation.
Yeah.
The Big Bang. That's a sound. It's associated with the sound that created, even in the scientific lens. And then also in Buddhism, it's not the word, but it's Aum, the primordial sound that started everything, and starts everything also in our thought forms and in ourselves. Is thought, is word, is sound, is vibration. Which when we're talking about sound, a lot of times we're just thinking about like what you hear. But it's deeper than that, correct? It's not just what we're hearing, but it's hitting us on a vibrational level.
Yeah,
right?
It's definitely beyond the body. It's really speaking to the cells in the body. So yeah, I mean that's where we get locked up in our minds and in our logic a lot of times, and once we let go of that, we're able to reach into these deeper aspects of ourselves. So it gives an opportunity for that logic to kind of float away and for us to sink into deeper aspects.
Yeah, and you're really good at doing that. At creating the space to like really sink in deep. I should have said this at the beginning, but I've done a few sound baths, sound therapy, but nothing compared to what I've done has been the experience when you're facilitating a sound bath. So no matter where you are in the country, in the world, book Austin. But how many different instruments do you have?
14 different instruments, or 25 instruments altogether if you count the multiples.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, and you're playing usually around 14 to 20, right? Every session, like within the 60 minutes.
90 usually.
90 minutes, yeah. You're going to different instruments. And they're all, what I love about it too is they're all pulled from different cultures as well, which when we look back on Reap Your Roots, we're always about looking back to our ancestors and to the ancient, because I believe the future is ancient. Like all of these things that are coming back into our reality are very important. But when you look back, every single culture uses sound. Even Christianity, when you look at the Psalms, when you look at even like there's, I think it was like the Gregorian, like Catholic Church would use chanting and the Psalms, and they had a very, I guess, firm belief that these chantings and the Psalms and the book of Psalms can actually heal you on an emotional, spiritual level.
Yeah.
So it's in Christianity. It's obviously in the yoga path as well, with different mantras and different chanting. It's in the indigenous plant medicine paths with Icaros and peyote songs. Like that is the medicine in a lot of ceremony. It's not actually, the plants are, they are teachers and they are the medicine too. But what works together is sacred songs with the plants to bring about, transformation and catalyst for growth. Who else? Every culture, ancient Egypt used sound therapy. The Greeks, Pythagoras, I think, talked about how there's different spheres of reality that can only be tapped into through sound and vibration.
Yeah.
I think it was him. But yeah, you see all these different cultures, and what you do is so revolutionary because no time in history did you have all of these instruments together.
Good point.
All like brought into like one 90-minute session.
Yeah.
Every culture had its instrument and had its song, sacred songs, and its method. But because of the world we live in, we have so much information and the unification of like all these practices together. You're literally like an alchemist.
Absolutely.
You're sound alchemist.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite instruments and why? And tell us like where it comes from too, because I like that.
Yeah. First of all, starting with my voice. My voice is my favorite instrument for many reasons. It allows me to share a piece of myself that really comes from inside of me. Playing all my instruments really gives me the opportunity to do that. But something specifically about my voice, it's a part of me. Literally. And and it's also, the cheapest instrument to travel with. I can take it anywhere in the world without having to take up space on a plane or car. But, I have some other unique instruments like the guzheng, which is a 21-string instrument. It's a Chinese harp. I have some drone flutes that are more Native American style. And I have, let's see, what else? I have some gongs that are from Germany. Didgeridoo, that's from Australia. I have a big powwow drum that I use. That's a lot of fun. That's also from native tradition. And let's see, what's one more thing? And a handpan. Handpans were created actually fairly recently in like the 70s in California. So it's one of the newest instruments that I play. But yeah, it's a quick spread.
Wow. The every instrument brings about different things to me, and actually every sound therapy session, like you were mentioning, like doesn't have to always bring up, the releasing stuff, but it can also just be a state of bliss.
Yeah.
Sound bowls have always been bliss. For me, a quick story, our first sound bath, me and Rachel, that we went to, they were working on a bowl that works with the solar plexus, and she kind of brought that up at the beginning, like these bowls that I'll be playing harmonize with this hertz or this frequency of your solar plexus, which is your self-esteem. And I just dropped into like a meditation. I didn't like feel really anything she was saying. I was just like, this is peaceful. But Rachel had an experience where like she had all of this like past stuff from that was like holding her back with her self-esteem and her feeling confident for herself, come up out of like nowhere, like past relationships and things like that just on our drive back, she was like, I don't know why this is like so like potent. I feel like it just like barely happened. And I remember when that happened to her, I was like, oh, there's something more here.
Yeah.
But every one of your instruments does, now that I've experienced like your sessions and had more sessions, brings up a different emotion or a different state. I'm wondering, for you, do you find any general themes of like, usually this instrument brings up this for people, or this instrument brings up that?
Yeah, it's probably, so I do, I think that obviously instruments can change and make people feel different things, but as far as common themes go, I think the drum, can bring up a lot of activation, a lot of, some people tell me that they feel like they're running away from something, which is interesting because, when you're just sitting there with sound is true. You can't really argue sound. So if you're running from sound, then in a way, if it's just a drum in a room, you're running away from the truth. And if you allow it to catch you, you may be surprised what it can actually show you if you sit there and allow it to exist with you instead of running away from it. And then you have the flutes that can be a nice heart opening activation. You can really feel that in your heart. The voice does the same thing. The singing bowls actually there's a singing bowl for each chakra that you can play. And depending on who you are and how tapped in you are to energy, you can really feel those in the different energy centers as they're played. And depending on how your energy body is structured, where there may be blockages, may funnel it to different areas. But yeah, and then at the end of the day, they all lead to the destination of peace.
Yeah. What is handpan for you? Or is there a theme with handpan?
Yeah, good question. If I had to put a theme on the handpan, I'd say that it's very mystical. And it's specifically the handpan that I play because of the key that it's in. It's just it's at a C-sharp Celtic scale, and it does create this like mystical, mysterious kind of vibe.
Yeah. And your official business name is Alignment.
Yes.
And you work heavily with the chakra system.
Yeah.
And coinciding that with sound. Is there certain instruments that you find like, oh, this instrument I use to break up energy? I know you're very intuitive based, so it's hard to like logically think about this. It's hard to even explain what goes on in your sessions because everyone after is just like, that was crazy. No matter how much I hype it up to someone when I bring someone new, it never disappoints. Like we'll hype it up, and sometimes when you're hyping something up, you're like, oh no, they're gonna be disappointed now. Yeah. Never.
Yeah. People tell me all the time that they've heard a lot about my sessions and that just how great they've been, and I tell them all the time, like, that really opens up a space for me because I hope that I live up to that, basically,
Yeah, you're like, I've got to put on now.
Put on the spot.
That's awesome. Going to the chakra system a little bit, do you find that there's like certain instruments that coincide with certain frequencies or energy centers or even places on the body? Because as a somatic therapist, that's super interesting for me.
Yeah. I think that if I wanted to, I could sit down and kind of come up with an idea of what I think resonates with the body. A rattle, for instance, can kind of shake up the energy in the room or kind of move something a little bit. And then you have dissonant sounds it's the opposite of harmonies. So you have different vibrations that literally bounce off of each other, and it creates like a woo instead of a simple tone. And that can also go in and dislodge sounds. But ultimately, in my perspective, the sounds are going to resonate with every person differently. And unless we were all completely healed and completely clean and energy flowed through us perfectly, then it might be a little bit more standardized for everyone. But since everyone has such different experiences, I could play a drum and someone feel it in their heart, someone else feel scared in their root, someone else feel connected to God through their crowns. So it's such a widespread, it's
cool.
Tricky.
That's cool. Which makes it such an effective modality for me, because it's literally, you said at the beginning of the podcast, like people have the opportunity to do their own healing, do their own work, because it is so like universal. Sound is so universal. I'd love the line you said, fundamental aspect of our reality, that like it will bring up what exactly you need. Like going back to that story with my first one, I probably just needed like a chill, peaceful, like 90 minutes, and what Rach needed was the stuff that came up. And every time I sit with you, it's different. I remember when we were in Texas earlier this year, and your voice, it was a big room, and you like unlocked this like this, I don't even know what to call it, this ancient sound out of your voice, this primal like wail that like literally made all my cells go, yeah. I was like ready to go to war. In heaven too. I was like ready to go to war in heaven for something. Oh my God, that's great. Yeah. Drum always brings up kind of that like primal for me. These are just personal, like, I guess, themes of what I've noticed for me. The drums always kind of the earth, of the primal, just dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
Heart. Flutes always bring me up to heaven. It's always very kind of celestial. And also, you have a Peruvian flute, right?
I have a flute that I got in Guatemala.
Oh,
It's made out of
Guatemala.
an elk
Yeah.
antler, and
Yeah.
it's got a lot of really cool aspects.
That's the
on it.
one that I'm remembering hearing.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. And the handpan's very much mystical, but like heart energy, it feels for me. That's why I bought one. So yeah, it's cool that they resonate with different people. When you've done where you like play on different parts of the body, you're moving like with the didgeridoo and stuff. Is that pretty much intuitive, or do you have like I usually play this instrument to this part of the body?
Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I think that intention as a sound therapist is extremely important. And what I've found for myself is when I start getting into my head about this person needs this, or I need to make sure that this happens this way, I, first of all, am interpreting what needs to happen through my personal experience and lens. And again, I can admit that I'm not 100% healed, 100% clear, you know, so I'm not going to tap into 100% truth in every moment. So my intention when I hold these spaces is to open myself, to get out of the way, to not use my mind, and to serve as a channel for God and for love to come through sound as the channel or the portal, and for God and love to go and do what it needs to do versus what I need it to do.
Yeah.
Because the opportunity for what is possible is unlimited when I'm not the one in charge.
Yeah. And that perspective is evident in, you know, the people saying like, oh, that was amazing, because it's not you, you're the channel. And like the Bhagavad Gita says, I am not the doer. You're there, that's your dharma, it's your work, but you're not the doer at the same time.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I definitely sense that and feel that when I'm in your sessions. And that's such a good point, the point you just made, for you trying to help anyone in any space, whether you're a somatic therapist or a sound therapist or a normal therapist or you know, facilitator in any respect, is you can't get it twisted. Don't forget that this isn't about me or what I think, because the mind will create illusion and second guess, and it almost takes us out of that intuition center.
Totally.
You know, but letting God, and I love how you said letting love come through, is always your intention behind it. And that way you don't even have to practice the instruments. I remember one time with one of the instruments, I was like, when'd you get it? Because it was a newer instrument you got. I was like, oh no, this is, I was like, how do you have time to practice all of these? And you were like, practice?
Practice when I play?
Yeah, in my sound baths, I practice. I was like, okay, so you're really a channel. It's not you sitting there getting in your head about it.
I don't write songs. I don't memorize anything, and it's different every single time. You know, I spend a lot of time with the instruments in general, you know, sharing them. So I think naturally I've found a rhythm to them, and some things may sound similar, because I'm not sitting there trying to make each song completely different from the last one. It's just a matter of what comes through me, and my heart has a song naturally. So I think that there are some common themes that come through the music, but there's always going to be differences because nothing's written.
Yeah. For like an alignment session for one of your sound baths, what is like the I know we've talked about how everyone's intentionality is different and experience is different, but like what is your ideal, like if people can just receive this from one of my sound baths, then that's what I hope.
Beautiful question. I think my goal ultimately is to create spaces where people can find peace, because peace is so important. And when we're at a space of peace, everything that we do can be more effective. It can be more accurate. It can be more clear. So yeah, I think just peace,
Yeah.
just peace.
Just peace. Peace, and that's it. I love that. In terms of cultivating that into like day to day, because it's really peaceful when we're there at the sessions. Mm-hmm. But like, is there like an integration plan with a lot of therapy? It's like, okay, now you have to go do this, this, this. What would you say the like integration from a really profound, peace-filled experiences with one of your sessions?
Ultimately, to remember the feeling.
Yeah.
To remember the feeling that you have of that peace, because if we can tap into remembering that, and the more that we tap into that peace, the more we have any session that creates peace or anything, it taps us into deeper knowing of what that is, of what that feeling is. So just remembering that. So, and the deeper that you remember it, the more that you can call it back in any moment that you need it. So practicing experiencing peace and then remembering it.
What are some of your practices or practices that you know of that are really beneficial of remembering that peace for you?
Breath work is really good. Sound therapy, of course. And both of these things are, once again, fundamental to life. You can't have life without vibration, which is obviously what sound is. You can't have life without breath. So anything that is fundamental to life, going out in nature, exercise, all of these things give an opportunity to really bring about peace. Yeah.
Life-giving practices.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in relation to sound, I've just I think it was last month, gave a training on chanting and toning in the throat chakra. For people who don't know about chanting or toning, I guess here's the main difference. Toning is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's just a breath in, and then you let whatever sound come out of your mouth, and you're just feeling it out. Yeah. So it's not like you're trying to form the sound coming out into syllables or into words that make sense. It's just toning, just whoa, whatever comes out. Yeah. And then chanting is more of like om, like specific symbols. Is that correct?
Yeah, specific words can be chants. And when it comes to toning, it's typically just one tone. Okay. Just Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you being that the voice is your favorite instrument, tell me a little bit about your journey of activating your voice and maybe what practices you do to keep it clear. Because one thing I've noticed, and I think I've told you this before, is people who have a very clear alignment, are very clear and very aligned, and typically with the throat chakra have a very peaceful voice. Mm-hmm. It's something I've noticed about you pretty much instantly when we became friends, is that your voice is very calming and soothing. How do you stay in alignment for keeping that clear and everything else you do in life?
I think that it's really I think it comes down to maintaining my focus on love and on God and on devotion, and these things help to keep me in line with integrity, and I think that integrity is a really important thing when it comes to your voice, because in every moment you're leaning into, is this right? Is this wrong? And so it almost forces me, and I'm grateful for it, but it almost forces me into a space of deep alignment, because I want to make sure in each moment that I'm doing the best that I possibly can. And my voice is an amplifier of that. So the more that I find that in myself, the more that displays itself through my voice.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of the cliche quote of a man's as good as his word, and on all the variations of that quote. When you mentioned integrity, our words and our voice has the power to create or destroy, but if we can constantly be contemplating, meditating, praying with God, with love, and then that's going to translate into our expression, right? What we're expressing out into the world, in the work that we do, and also the words that we say.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Absolutely.
That's a really good point also on the integration of like, how do I integrate after a sound bath?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what sounds are you emitting? What words are you speaking that's not in alignment with who you are? And that takes, ironically, getting silent, like inside, and getting silent on your external environment as well. Having that unspeakable world, starting to get to know that, so that you can then come to who you are, and then you can express and create and speak from that place as well. That's good. I really like giving people like actionable things in these podcasts. I like talking about like the deep insights, but it's all like, for me, I always think of it in like what it is, why it's important, and then how is so important. Like, how do we actually integrate this into our day-to-day life?
You know, it's really interesting, but with sound is, and especially when it comes to toning, it's such a powerful tool for us to take into our own lives, into our own practice. Because really, if you sit still in a quiet place and you just tone, close your eyes and just you can just hum. That's a really great way to explain toning, humming. But if you just hum, and you really pull your full awareness to that sound, to where it is your focus. It's what you're focused on. You know, if any thoughts creep in, you're not looking at that thought. You're still focused on the sound that's emitting through you. If you're really focused on that, then it stops every single thought that you could have. It literally neutralizes your thought. You cannot think while you're humming with your focus on the hum. If your focus isn't on the hum, your mind can wander, and you can hum while you're thinking about this thing over here. But if you really focus on that hum, it will silence your mind.
Yeah, it reminds me of, you mentioned breath work and sound. Like, if you focus on the breath, that's the first, is the concentration, which is in yoga, dharana, I think. And then the dhyana is the meditation. So first you have the concentration, and then you can drop into meditation. Once you like quiet the mind, then you can get. And sound, listening to music has always been really powerful for me. But when you're expressing the music as well, even more powerful, or the toning or the chanting, which I kind of mentioned this at the start, but reminds me of a really good practice for me is to eliminate a lot of the disruptive sound. Like, as I've grown and as I've gone through my healing journey, I've found that there was like some music that I used to just love that just doesn't resonate with me anymore. And if I'm in a certain mood, like, I can tap into that frequency and listen to it. But generally speaking, like, I'll drive silent in my car a lot of the times, where I used to always be music or a podcast. And then I'm always very conscious of like where my internal state is at and what music I'm going to be listening to as well. Because if I just play whatever, or from, it's the radio or something, it is even subconsciously creating ripples, out into my field.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful awareness. And I forgot what I was going to say.
What I was mentioning was about the ripple effect into your field, like being able to screen what sounds are coming in, whether it's music.
Yeah. So we've all heard the quote or the saying, "You are what you eat," but you do not only eat with your mouth. You eat with your ears, you eat with your eyes, you eat with every sense. So paying attention to what inputs you're allowing into your life will really help to determine the state of your internal being. And then from there, that once again, that plays into how much peace are you able to sit into. And the more peace that you're able to sit into, the more you're able to emit that, if that's what you want to emit, of course.
Yeah, and we can close our eyes or look away from something, we can choose not to eat, but we don't have ear holes that close.
True.
Even when we're sleeping, it's the only sense that's still active, still listening. So it's constantly downloading what's around us. And when you don't have a break from that, your internal world, like, you're just completely disconnected from.
Yeah. Especially when you're sleeping, because it's going straight to your subconscious. There's no filter through your conscious mind anymore. So if you listen to music when you sleep, please make sure that it's what you really want to be programming in your subconscious.
Dang, that's deep. I remember my cousin, growing up, we'd be at my Nana's house, and he'd be listening to like the craziest, so loud in his headphones. I was on the other couch. He'd fall asleep listening to, it was either like dubstep or like really hard rock.
Yeah.
And I was like, how is he asleep right now?
Yeah, I have friends like that, and I know people who fall asleep with the news in their ear. It's not what I want to be programming my subconscious with.
Just like fear.
Yeah, exactly.
Judgment.
Exactly.
That's crazy. Wow. Well, this has been awesome, bro. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Yeah, I'd love to share, one more thing. I think something that's been, that I've come across or seen occasionally is that sound therapists will be the doctors of the future. And, it hits my ego sometimes. I'm like, oh, that'd be cool,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I start really looking into that and thinking about doctors in this day and age. And do you know what doctors call their tools these days?
No.
They call them instruments.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, is there a relation there? Because clearly there's some sort of crossover. It's really interesting.
Whoa. Yeah. Those are like the OG God-given instruments.
Yeah.
What you've got and, and the medicine that you're giving into that space is we're shifting from this worldview of, at least us here in the West, of like it's just the body that's separate, and it's just the mind and that's separate, and it's just you, and everyone else and everything else is also separate and doesn't have an effect on you. And this desouled world where not everything is connected and everything harmonizes and everything has a frequency and everything has a resonance, and all these words that we use that just like point to the obvious of how important sound is for our journey into this new earth, for us healing and us becoming unified again. It's going to be a huge, first on your internal world, right? We've talked a lot about people getting, walking their own healing journey, and then using that sound and music and dance and voice to bring people together on a collective healing journey.
Absolutely. There's a really, really cool, I don't know if you would call it an experiment or thing that I've seen, where you can fill a singing bowl with water, and you can put a lot of petals in that singing bowl, and the petals will spread out along the whole bowl. And then once you start playing the singing bowl, the vibration literally forces all of the petals to the center. So it's literally an opportunity for us to come together through sound. The more of us that experience sound vibration in this way of therapy, it literally starts to unify all of those people, because we're now vibrating at the same level. We're tuned to the same vibration. So it's really a unificator also.
Yeah, and getting in resonance internally, and then being able to get in resonance on the external environment, because that's where we're headed. That's where all the spiritual teachers, masters, guides, everyone that we look to, Yeshua, Buddha, everyone is talking about we're all becoming one. Be one with the Father as I am one. Soham, which is a mantra, which means I am that, which is I am consciousness, I am you are me, this unification. And I think that sound is going to be, I love the point of the doctors of the future, because it is, the future is ancient, and there already are, like, the doctors in ceremony are the one, like, that's one of the requirements. You can't just sit well with, for example, plant medicine. You have to be able to tune into frequency, energy, vibration, and be able to, in a lot of the traditional senses, sing the Icaros, play the water drum, and in all the different ways be able to tap into that music that really is the language, the universal language, language Absolutely. Of the soul. Aho. Amen. Amen, bro. Is there anything else that you would add, any last bits of wisdom in terms of what I look up to you a lot, in respect you a lot, is your ability to love, and just your heart chakra is very, and I could go off on examples of why I look up to you like this, but we'd be here all day because really, really, bro, your ability to just unconditionally love and be present with people. So is there any maybe tidbit of wisdom of why that's important, or how people can live in that frequency of love of the heart chakra?
I think that it comes down first to presence, and surrounding yourself by company that you really enjoy, that you really love, who really enjoy and really love you and support you. Our environment is extremely crucial to how we grow. So that would be one of my first recommendations. Also, I have a past, and in that past, there have been things that I've done that didn't feel good in a lot of ways. And I realized in those moments that I no longer wanted to show up in a way that could create dissonance if I had an opportunity to show up differently. So I started to lean into how I can show up in each moment, making sure that I'm doing my best so that these moments of dissonance come up less frequently. So the more that I show up doing my best, the more of that love I'm able to carry with me, and that really just brings it back full circle for me into presence.
Yeah, I thought of awareness.
Yeah.
I thought of awareness and like just having unconditional presence for yourself, but watching yourself, observing yourself, so that you're not creating, what was the word you used? Dissonance?
Yeah.
Dissonance. Yeah. I'm gonna ponder on that. and using sound to do that.
Yeah.
So that's what we're all gonna do. Where can we find you on like social medias, website, any other platforms, any big events you got going on soon?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Thanks. Yeah, you can find me on social media, on Instagram, AustinShook_. On Facebook, my name's just Austin Shook. I have a business page called Alignment. You can find me on the internet on my website at peaceofalignment.com. And then as far as like events and things that I have coming up, outside of sound healing, I host a festival once a year. It's called Feel Good Fest. It's a big music and arts festival, family-friendly event. It's in Concord this year, Concord, North Carolina, on October 4th. And then I also host other larger-scale healing events, including one called the Healing Heart Experience. It's a 5.5-hour journey with a cacao ceremony, breathwork session, a 90-minute sound healing. During the sound healing, everyone gets a 30-minute massage on a table by an LMT, and then there is gourmet vegan food afterwards. So really, really love bringing many modalities together into one event and sharing that way, because it really blasts you off into yourself in very transformational ways.
Sign me up. Well, thanks, bro. Love you. And thank you for all your words. And thank you guys for tuning in to Reap Your Roots. Give Austin a shout. If he's in your city, he also does tours all over, mostly the East Coast, but you've kind of gone all over, right?
Yeah,
You've gone
41
west.
states.
Yeah, which is amazing. Gotta experience it. And yeah, stay tuned with Reap Your Roots with more collabs that we're going to be doing as well. When you're talking about blending all those modalities, you're a new earth builder, you're a kingdom builder, and we just need to all band together to be able to do that. So thanks, y'all. Thanks for listening, and remember to keep smiling.